Greetings, people of the internet. This is Scott with Serkworks Art Labs, and you, through the magic of YouTube search or YouTube recommendations, or maybe you're subscribed to my channel, and if you aren't, maybe you should do that. That would be awesome. But you have found your way to me in my underground factory laboratory, Serkworks Factory Laboratory, where we create robots, alien zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. Most days. Some days we create Miscrits. Today is one of those days again. So it seems like most of the time I am coming from the underground lab lately. It has been for Miscrits. But there'll be a lot of other cool stuff coming your way, I assure you that. So what is going on? We are one video away from finalizing our Miscrit, the completed Miscrit that we've been working on for, oh geez, it's months now. We've been trying to put out a video every week. We've skipped a few for holidays and things like that. But all that hard work is starting to pay off, because today we already finished our Miscrit sketch for our 4th evolution. This is it right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this into the computer laboratory in the other section of the lab, and we are going to scan this in, and we are going to start doing our digital outlines. And my plan is, because I know you've kind of seen this process over and over again. Once you create one evolution of the Miscrit, everything else kind of goes along those same lines. We start off, we do our sketching, then we bring it into the computer, we do our digital outlines, and then after that, which we'll do next week, is we color in and finalize our Miscrit. So you've seen that process, but I kind of blew through it in most of the previous videos. So this time, what I plan to do is take a little more time and maybe show you some of the tools in the program, Adobe Illustrator, that I use to do all the digital work for the Miscrits, and kind of hopefully show you a little more step by step, and we'll see how that goes. But if you guys have any questions about how I do things, let me know. The program, like I said, the program I use to do the digital work that we're going to be using today is Adobe Illustrator. I know I get a lot of questions, and I can mention it over and over again, and I'll still get questions. But that's the program we use. Now there are alternatives, because Illustrator can be a pricey program, and right now it's only available for through a cloud-based service. So you have to get like a subscription to use it every month. And it's with the Adobe Cloud, so you can get that plus Photoshop and everything, or you can just get one individual program. But it can get pricey, and especially for artists starting out, that's not always feasible. So there's another program I haven't used personally, because I've always used Illustrator and I know how to use it. And it's kind of the industry standard, so that's what I use. But and the great thing about the internet is, of course, there's all kinds of tutorials all over the place. But there's a program. There's probably more than one programs like this, but the one that the other one I know of that I believe is free, and you can give a donation, because it's it's probably supported by donations and everything. But it's called Inkscape. You can check that out. You can play around with that if you like to do vector artwork. And I don't know if I ever explained this. Some people know this, some people don't. But vector artwork there's a difference between vector and raster. And raster is what you would see like with a photograph, or what you do in Photoshop. You can do your painting and things like that, or digital retouching. It's basically like a photograph. And you'll notice with photographs, if you try to blow them up, they lose their resolution and they get fuzzy. Illustrator isn't like that. Illustrator is more like, it's digital, almost more like a font. Like if you ever have a font, and you can make that font as big as you want, and it doesn't get pixelated or anything like that. It's nice and crisp. So imagine if you were to create artwork the same way you would create a font. It's vector based, it's scalable, and that's what we've always used for designing Miscrits from the beginning. And it takes a lot of getting used to. It's not as intuitive as just drawing, a regular, like you would pen and paper, or like painting or doing a drawing in Photoshop or something like that. It's a little different, a little harder to get used to. But once you master it, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. But anyway, rather than just going on and telling you about this program, let's get into the program and start working on our Miscrits. So let's go down to the computer labs. Okay, so as you can see, we have our sketch, which you scanned in, and we brought it into our Illustrator program, Adobe Illustrator program. And we're going to do a little step-by-step tutorial here today. Usually what I do is I record my process, I speed it up, and then I do a voiceover. And what I'll probably do is I did record drawing this shape. Actually, I've already drawn it, which you can't see because it's on another layer which I've hidden. So I drew all the outlines for the character, and it was in 2 videos. I lost the first one, so I only have like the second half. But what we're going to do anyway is I'm going to record this video. Now this is going to be real time. This isn't going to be sped up, this section of it anyway. And I am going to kind of just show you how to draw some shapes. I may have gone over this in the first outline video on our first evolution, some of it. But that was a while back, and there's some people that have been asking some questions and things like that. So I want to, like I said, do sort of a real-time drawing demo here with some of these shapes. As you can see, the sketch is it's pretty rough and everything, but that's okay because that's where we're gonna refine it right now. We've got our layers palette. I've got a lot over here. I don't know if you can see my cursor here kind of moving around. I don't have some fancy like tutorial capability where I can zoom in and all that stuff. I don't really know how they do that. I'll have to look into that. So I'm gonna have to kind of explain. But anyway, so I've got the sketch on a layer which I've locked, so I won't be able to move it around or anything like that. So it's gonna stay here, and it's not gonna affect any of the drawing we're gonna do. Isn't gonna affect that. So as you can see over here, I've got these little color circles, these circles with colors in them, and this is what I'm using for my palette, and this is something that I do when I draw Miscrits. I don't know if some of the other artists use the same technique, but I tend to do that. And basically these are just here which I can click on. So if I get my selection tool, which is the black arrow, and I click on that, I think I might have clicked too much. I clicked too hard and it like double clicked on me. I'm using a stylus, by the way, so sometimes it's a little touchy when you click on something, you actually double click. But anyway, so I've clicked on that. Now if you can see down here, this is our toolbar, this real long set of tools here, and you can set it up different ways. You can set it like, so there's like 2 columns or 1. I like the 1 column, and I like to keep it over here. But if you look here, you've got a solid color, and you've got this one that's sort of an outline. And that's our stroke and our fill. So right now we've selected this, what I'm using for my palette. It's solid red with a darker red outline. And I'll show you how I kind of come to this. So how I create these little palettes. Over here, if you go down, hopefully you can see this. I know it's tiny where you guys are looking, but there's some shapes. Now mine has a circle shape, but yours might show a rectangle or like an ellipse or a rounded rectangle or whatever, but there's a little drop down box. So I'm going to click on this. Let's see, why isn't it working? Gotta wait. It might be because I'm recording that it's giving me a little lag here. But anyway, so I've got my circle, so now I'm just going to draw a circle, and, well, you know what? Let me go back here. So that's normally what you're going to see, what I just did there. Is the default is a black outline and a white fill. So if you're just starting the way the program is set up, it's going to give you that when you draw a circle. Now, a couple of things. Down here where we've got our fill and our stroke little icon down here, right now the fill, the white, is in the foreground and the outline is in the background. So that means that the fill is what's selected. So if I go over, and I've got my swatch palettes, here it is. So let's see, I'm gonna create sort of a light blue. Oop, I didn't select it. You have to select the circle. It won't do anything in this, whatever, it's going to react to whatever you have selected, anything you do. So make sure that that's selected. So now you can see the little box around here is selected. And now I can go and I can click on my blue color in my palette. You can see how it filled it in blue. And that's because the foreground color is blue. I mean, the foreground, the fill color is up front, and that's selected. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click what's behind that outline, that black outline, and you can see how that brought that to the foreground. And so now when I click a color, it's going to change the stroke. So I'm going to click this real dark blue. You might not be able to tell because it's almost black, but so we've got a dark blue outline and a light blue fill, and that's what I'm kind of using for this little color palette that I'm going to refer back to. Anyway, so now I don't know if you can tell, but if I move it up, let me move it over here. This is what I've already shown you. Now this outline is a lot thicker than this outline. Now when we work with Miscrits, we have an outline of 0.75. This outline, the default outline for Illustrator that's going to give you for the stroke is going to be 1 point. So what I want to do is again select my shape, because it won't, like I said, it won't do anything unless you have whatever shape you're trying to alter selected. So I'm going to go, and I have a on my palettes, they're kind of random. I should have organized these before I did this little demo. But there is a stroke window for a stroke palette. It's basically 4 lines on top of each other. The top one's a dotted line that's got a thin line that gradually gets thicker. So I'm going to click on that. Now another way you can get to it is if you go to Window, and then you've got all your things listed, and then you go down to stroke. You can see there's a check mark, which means it's open. So I've got my stroke, and you can see where it says weight 1 point. I mean, is this selected? Okay. It's weight is 1 point. Now, like I said, for Miscrits, everything is 0.75. So I'm going to click 0.75. There's a drop-down list there, and that's going to make it a little thinner. And that's what we want for our Miscrits. So when we're drawing, or when you guys are drawing, make sure your weights, your line weight for your Miscrits are 0.75. It usually doesn't differ from that. I don't think I've ever done any Miscrits where you've had a line that's thicker than that. So that was just something that was established early on in the game. So anyway, so now we've got that. And the other thing is, if you want to reverse this, so you can see where right now the stroke, the outline is in the forefront, and the fill is in the background. Now there's a little toggle here. It's like 2 little arrows up here in the corner. If I click on that, it'll just reverse it. So now we've got the light outline in the dark fill. So we don't want that, but just if you do kind of want to switch back and forth, you can do that. Select that. Let's put that back to normal. Now we aren't really going to use that, so I'm just going to delete that because I already have my palette selected. But right here you can see I have these. These are just strokes. There's no, you know what? I shouldn't have deleted that. Let me show you this. So I'm just going to steal this guy. Oops. I'm going to copy that. Now what I'm doing for that is just Alt, and I have my selection tool, and that's going to create a copy. So I've got the fill and the stroke here. Now I want to create a separate one that just has the stroke. So if I click on that, I go down, and my stroke is selected because it's in the foreground. And what I'm going to do is below that, you'll see there is a little icon that's like a red dash, a diagonal dash. I'm going to click on that, and I messed up. That got rid of my stroke. I didn't want that. So we want to have our fill selected in the foreground. Now if I click on that, it's going to, you can see it's going to get rid of the fill, which is what we want for right now, because right now we're just doing the outlines. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing some shapes. So I am going to get my pen tool, and it's like the 5th one down. There's a little, assuming that yours is laid out the same way, there's different versions of Illustrator. And if you're using a different program like Inkscape or something, and a different vector program, I really don't have experience in that, so that might be something you're going to have to do research on. I'm sure there's similar tools and everything, but I would imagine a pen tool probably looks like a pen tool no matter what program you're using. So it just looks like the old ink pins that you used to dip in, like a fountain pen. So the tip of that. So that's the icon. So now I have that selected. I am going to, right now, let's see, I'm gonna select just my outline palette. That way I'm gonna be able to see the background through it, because if I draw with the fill already in there, it's going to obscure everything that I'm drawing, which is difficult. We're going to save these colors with the fills for when we do our coloring. So anyway, so now I've got my outline selected, my pen tool selected, and let me zoom in here a little bit. I've got the zoom tool so you can see. Now it's going to get really kind of nasty looking because this sketch isn't very high quality, but that's all right because it gives me enough information, all the information I need. So here's where kind of the fun begins, or the frustration begins if you're not used to drawing this way. So I'm going to click here, just anywhere, any shape we're going to start drawing the nose of the Miscrit here. So I click that, and then I'm going to go. It's kind of like connect the dots. Like, now I could put a line here, and then I'm not letting go. I'm just, as I drop that line down, I'm just gradually pulling, and you can see these little handles right here. You pull on those, and it's going to make your shape. Now let me start over here. So I put the line here. I'm going to put the line above right here. Now the fewer lines, the fewer dots that you put, the more round you're going to be able to, the more round your curves are going to be. So you want to try to do the fewest amount of points as you can and still get your shape the way you want it to. So I'm going to click right above the one that I just laid down. So you can see there's a line right there. Now again, I'm going to pull on these handles until I get where I want, and that's about right where I want. Now I'm going to let go. Now I'm going to click back on this line. You know what happened? Let's see. Oh no, okay, we're good. All right, I'm going to click back on that line. Then I'm going to find another shape like this right here. And oops, I didn't mean to let go of that. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to drop that down. And I'm going to pull my handle again. And that looks like a pretty nice curve. I'm going to click on this, because if you don't click back on this line, you don't really know what you're going to get when you start pulling these handles. So I click back on that. Now I'm going to actually close the shape. So this is going to be a perfectly closed shape. When I click on the first line I drew, now I'm just going to kind of again pull these handles to get where I want. And there you go. Now we've got the nose, and I'm going to click off of that. Let's try a different shape. We're going to draw the eyes. So the eye shape, we've talked about that. I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to go up here. I'm going to click back on the line I just drew, find the next shape, kind of pull there, click back on the line I just drew. Now I'm going to go all the way over here to where the first line or first point that I dropped down, and connect that and pull, and there we've got the eye shape. Now let's see. Now one thing you want to pay attention to, right now it's set up the way we want it, but by default I'm going to click over and show you guys something. Okay, let me zoom in here. Now, you'll notice right here, the eye where it came to a really sharp point, which kind of gives a good effect. But sometimes these sharp points can be problematic when you're trying to do in drawings like this. It's hard to explain why unless you see it. Sometimes these points will go, they'll just shoot out real long, and it's like that's not what I want and everything. So the best thing to do to avoid that is, let's select our shape. We're going to go back to our stroke. Remember we talked about the stroke palette. It's the one with the lines, the 4 lines here. Now under the weight size, which we talked about, is something that says caps and corners. And right now it's set to like a straight, sort of an angle, like a square angle. But we want to make them kind of rounded. So the middle part right here is going to be our round corners and our round caps. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to click on that. And I don't know if you just noticed that, but it just rounded it. And that's going to be that we want it set to our rounded corners and rounded caps when we do miscrits. Otherwise, we're going to get a lot of crazy lines, especially when we start doing some of these lightning bolts and things. It just gets crazy, and you can kind of experiment that. You can see what I'm talking about. Okay, let's do one thing. We're gonna go with a different line shape here. We're gonna draw the mask. So I am gonna click on the palette that I created. This is just a gray outline. All right. And I'll do one more shape, and I want to just show you a little more about layering here. So I'm going to start here. This is his mask that kind of goes over his head. I'm going to pull here, and you can see I'm just drawing over the nose right now. And I'm going to find the next line and pull it to where I want it. I'm going to go up here. Oops. That's what happened because I must not have clicked back on my. Remember, if you see, let me zoom in here so you guys can see this. See how this line shot out like that? We don't want that, and that's because I didn't click back on my last point. So we're gonna now here we go. I gotta zoom back out a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna click back on my last point there. There we go. Find the next area I want to kind of set my line down. And there's a lot of trial and error exactly where you set your lines. You get used to it, but it takes a while. I messed up again. All right, click back on my line, curve here. I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna draw my curve here, click back on my line. There we go. Click back on my line, click back on my line, go over here, draw there, make sure the curve looks nice and round. Then I'm gonna connect my shape and pull till I get where I want. And then we have the mask. Now, the problem right now, and you can't really tell because we just have an outline. I'm going to zoom out for a second. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is, and we'll see this more in the coloring phase, but I am going to click on, well, first, let me click on the eye. I'm just gonna make it a solid blue right now. Now, obviously, that's not gonna be the color of the eye, but just for this demonstration, we can change that later. And then the same thing with the nose. I'm gonna click on the nose. So we've got our fill and our stroke, and then for the mask, I'm gonna go up here and click on this gray. Now you can see our eye just disappeared. Well, it actually didn't disappear. It's actually behind this shape here, but we don't want that. We want the eye to be in front. And when we're drawing with this, it's a lot of shapes and there's a lot of different layers. There's layers, and then there's kind of the alignment of the shapes on the same layer. And I'll explain what I'm talking about there. So what we're going to do, we want, it's kind of, the mask is coming over the nose, and we don't want that. The nose should be in front. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the nose, and we're going to go up to Object, Arrange, and we're going to bring to front, and that's going to bring that shape to front. Now for the mask, right now what we're going to do is, I can send this all the way to the back. Now right now we only have 3 shapes, so that's pretty easy to deal with. But once we start getting all these different shapes, finding out where it goes is a little harder to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that shape, and then we're just going to send it, instead of sending it all the way back, we're going to send it back just one step. So we're going to go Object, Arrange, Send back, send backward, and that's going to bring it back one step, and that's in front of the eye. Now when you have a lot of different ones, a lot of different shapes, then there's a lot more to organize, and you're going to have to figure out kind of how to do that. But there's also a thing you can do, and let me see if I can remember the shortcut for this one. So let's see, let's just draw a little like red. Okay, so now this little red shape right here is in front of this. Now I want it to go behind the eyeball here, and what I can do is, if I can remember, let's see, is it Control So what I did was I hit Control X, which is, it just cuts it. So, and I'm going to click on the eye, and then I'm going to go Control, or I'm on PC, so Control or Command if you're on Mac, and there's and you want to hit B, which stands for back, and that's going to place it right behind whatever shape you had selected. So if I would have had, I'm going to undo that. So if I would have had this white shape selected and I hit Control or Command and then B for back, it's going to go behind the white shape. So whatever, if you're trying to put one shape behind another particular shape, then that's what you want to do. Now you can do the same thing. Like if I wanted to, I'm gonna cut this. Oops, let's see. Let me try that again. Let me draw a red shape here. Okay, so I've cut that, so that's on my clipboard, it's cut out. Now, say I want it in front of this white line. Instead of hitting back, instead of hitting Control B, I'm going to hit Control F. Oops, but it's not in the right space. Let's see. Okay, so, and that just put it in front of this white line here. You can see it's behind the eye, but it's in front of there. So just remember Control B and Control F to if you make a selection. If you want it in front of that, you hit Control B. If you want it behind that shape, then you hit, I'm sorry, if you want it in front, you hit Control F for front. If you want it behind, you hit Control B for back. And that's kind of how you can organize some of these shapes. But right now we don't want all these shapes colored like this because we can't see what's going on. So we're going to switch back to our outline. So I'm just going to select all three of these shapes at once just by putting my selection tool and kind of dragging, and I kind of create a box around it. Now you can see they're all selected. And I'm going to go over to the strokes and Phil's little toolbar here at the bottom. We showed you that before. I'm going to make sure that the fill is in the front. And if you look below, there is a little, it's a little square with a red X or a red line through it, a diagonal line. I'm going to click on that, and that's going to make anything that I have a fill for, it's going to get rid of that fill. So now you can see, now we're back to where we can see. And so, yeah, so hopefully that'll give you an idea how we're drawing these shapes. Again, I'm not really set up to, one of these days what I should do is just sit down and actually do a really nice step-by-step tutorial and with some graphs and show you where I can zoom in on the different tools and everything. So hopefully that helped you guys out. I don't know if it didn't, I apologize. Just tutorials are not really my greatest strength. So many people that do it way better than me, and there are other tutorials on how to do that. But hopefully that'll give you a little insight. If you guys have any questions, if I skipped over or anything like that, just leave me a comment, in the comment sections on YouTube, and I'll try to answer that. But for now, that's going to insert the live drawing segment, and we're just going to switch over to what I already have done as far as pre-recorded, and we're going to speed it up a little bit, and we're going to finish this guy up. So thanks for you may have, if this isn't your thing, if you just kind of want to see a drawing, this might have been too much for you guys, but if you are interested in the drawing aspect of it, thanks for sticking around. And if not, this is the next this is the second to the last step in this process, and then we're going to have all our Miscrits done, and I mean all our evolutions and everything. So pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the live. I'll be back. I'll do a little voiceover again, so you haven't heard the last of me yet. But we're going to switch over to the pre-recorded speed drawing. We're going to finish this guy up, and you'll hear me in a minute, or a second, I guess, for you guys. All right, so now we have sped up this video quite a bit, and as you can see, I've done a lot of work that we kind of missed out on. I told you before, I lost a segment of this drawing. I did it in two segments. I did one where I did all the connected shapes, the solid shapes, and right now what I'm doing is all of the shapes that aren't solid, and basically what I do is I put those on a separate layer. And the reason for that is that when you're drawing a lot of shapes that aren't connected, if you accidentally draw a shape near it and you touch it, it'll connect it to to the other thing you're drawing. So I usually draw all the solid shapes first, then I go back and I add all these little lines. Like what you can see right now is in between, say, like the toenails. I'll draw 3 toenails as one shape, but then I'll go in on a separate layer and make an open line that's a line separating each one of those toenails. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a lot to gather. We're going so fast. I'm trying to explain all this as we go. But yeah, all these little things like the cape, the folds in the cape. If you look at the tongue, the line that comes down the center of the tongue, it's not a solid shape. It's just a line. So I want to keep those on a separate layer so they don't get in the way. So that's just one of the things that I do. But anyway, we are wrapping up this Miscrit. As you can see, hopefully you can see how it's coming together. And we've got our next video. We're going to finish this guy up, and then we'll be complete. We'll have the whole Miscrit completely done. So if you want to see that, if you want to be alerted to that, and you aren't subscribed, you probably should do that. If you have any questions, please comment. I like to get back to all you guys. And thanks, and that is all.